Today we're going to be talking about African Caribbean artist Christopher Ofili. He's a contemporary artist and he was part of the YBAs. Born in Manchester, extremely religious. He was an altar boy.
Really?
Yeah, he was an altar boy.
What's an altar boy?
An altar boy is, I think someone...
Were you an altar boy?
No, I think someone... Not that that's a bad thing, but... No, of course not.
You were in the choir though?
Yeah, I was in the choir. So Chris has quite a religious background and he focuses on a lot of blaxploitation and contemporary rap in his artwork. Okay. So he looks at real heavy subjects, but brings them back to a religious context. So he takes note from the Bible, from folklore, from hearsay, and translates it into something that's more universally understood for other people. So kind of heavy topics, he almost satirizes and presents in a very fun way. One of his iconic, very well-known features that he does in his artwork is incorporating elephant dung. So in 1992, Chris was still studying at the Royal Academy of Arts, and he got offered a scholarship to go to Zimbabwe. And when he travelled to Zimbabwe, he studied a lot of cave paintings, and from there he took a lot of inspiration into the art that he would create during the 90s.
Do you know the process of him using elephant dung?
He uses a specific elephant. I know this.
As in one elephant?
I think in 2010, Christopher really did his retrospective at the Tate, and one of the conservators had to essentially look into how to appropriately
acquire the elephant dung
from
one specific
elephant. And I watched the interview.
Do you think he took barrel loads of it?
I don't know. I mean, they're pretty mighty, substantial pieces of poo in the artworks. If you look at it, these canvases are massive. So you have to look at it.
So was this one done with elephant dung?
Yes, so you can see. So there's elephant dung actually holding it up as well as sticking out on the front of the canvas.
I completely missed that.
Yeah, so it looks like it's part of the artwork. It looks like it's just a relief a relief sculpture and a relief medium in a lot of artworks is when it sticks and protrudes out from the artwork.
How did I miss the giant blobs of poop?
Yeah. And it's coated in resin.
The title is written on the poop.
Yeah. So it's kind of his way of signing it, but he also incorporates the title in many other ways, not just on the dung. And I think it's phosphorescent light. So there's a painting called No Woman No Cry, which is my favourite painting and probably the one that sticks most out in everyone's minds when you think of Chris Ofili. So No Woman No Cry is based on Doreen Lawrence, whose son sadly got killed in southeast London in the late 90s, and the police case was dropped, and Doreen, for her son and for an advocate of many black men and women whose cases had just got overshadowed and forgotten, she stood up and they eventually found the murderers. This obviously struck chords in Chris's heart, and it is a beautiful painting, and in the teardrops in the painting you can actually see portraits of Stephen Lawrence. Doreen wasn't photographed crying a lot of the time. She was seen as a very strong woman, and she's actually done a Desert Island Disc, which I've not managed to listen to yet, but Chris wanted to portray her with tears falling from her eyes because this was a painful, horrific moment for her son, and he saw it as a very emotionally drawn painting and painted her in this way. It's a beautiful piece, and it really highlights how massive events within history can be recorded in painting and can really reflect the time and serve as us as a memento of what happened to Doreen, to Stephen. If you shine this under phosphorescent light, it actually states Stephen Lawrence's name.
No.
Yeah. So it's essentially a dedication to him and to Doreen.
That is so unique.
So obviously within this period of time, within the 90s, there weren't many African Caribbean artists that were so established as him, and he was quickly picked up by Charles Saatchi, who we've both worked for before, exactly, at the Saatchi Gallery. Charles picked him up in the 90s, and in 1997, Sensation, which was a travelling exhibition, started, and Chris was featured among many YBAs, Tracy Emin, Damien Hirst, in Sensation. So this exhibition travelled to New York, and Rudy Giuliani, who was the mayor at the time, tried to file a lawsuit against one of his paintings, which was...
Why? Why ever would he do that?
So, should we get the painting up and you'll see?
Yeah.
So the painting is called The Holy Virgin Mary. So already you can think, a lot of religious artwork can sometimes be seen as quite opinionated. So Rudy Giuliani tried to file a lawsuit against, I think it was the Brooklyn Museum, or it was the museum that Sensation was featured in. He thought that this was vulgar and a vulgar representation of the Virgin Mary. Typically within Renaissance the Virgin Mary is seen as a white, middle-aged woman with the Immaculate Conception of the baby Jesus. Here, the Virgin Mary is represented as the Black Madonna, but obviously, as it's a trait within Chris's work, it's adorned with photographic cutouts of vaginas, of penises, and elephant dung.
Mm-hmm.
So, to someone who was strictly religious, they would see this as pretty revolting. And
heretic.
Yeah, and he said that this is disgusting. So tried to file a lawsuit against this painting. I think it represents to Chris his views on religion, and he thought it was very odd to think of the Virgin Mary giving birth, because you're brought up throughout your life.
We kind of skim over that.
You
part.
skim over that, and you think, well, that's random. And Chris, tackles this kind of thing by almost.
It's the birds and the bees. It's all here.
And he's not sexualizing it. He is presenting her in quite a demure way, obviously with so much stuff around her that isn't so demure. It's something that's totally different. It's a totally different representation of the Virgin Mary. Art's revolutionary, art's meant to go against the tide, and this is what Chris is doing. But I think that there's more of a story to tell for a lot of black artists. I think that they've got more of a rich history, an understanding of struggle, and they convey that in their artwork beautifully. Do you know much about the Venice Biennale?
Is it like the Oscars of the art world?
Yeah, it kind of is, but it's a way of showing and highlighting that nation's cultural identity in a really weird way.
So it's like Eurovision?
Kind of. Do you know, it is like an art Eurovision. I think that's probably the best way to put it. So for this, Within Reach was part of the room where there was multiple different artworks that paid homage to red, green and black. One of the highlights for me is not actually what's situated in the room, but what was situated outside the room. Union Black was created in 2003. And this is of a Union Jack flag, but in Pan-African colours. So black to represent African skin, red to represent blood, and green to reference the continent's abundance of nature. And here Chris and David incorporate a way that we are paying respect to their cultural heritage, to Chris's cultural heritage, to his family, to all of those people, and how we're implementing that as a fusion with the UK's identity. And this is also situated on top as a flag of the Tate Britain.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't remember seeing it. This must have been slightly before my time.
We were youngsters.
We were kids. I was reading an article on Tiny Temper and what he was saying about Christopher Ofili, because he's a massive fan. And he was saying how Tiny Temper's a producer, a DJ, how you can really liken Chris's artwork to a process of creating a song. How you're layering different pieces, how he uses Chris beads, resin, elephant dung in his artwork, and how you have to look at a melody, you have to look at the bass line, all these kind of things in music, and he sees that parallel.
Okay, we've moved from a great British artist to Tiny Temper.
Good little silo.
What did he sing? That's the marching band at the England football games.
With art, cultural identity is at the heart of a lot of artists and what they create, and I think that's the important part of looking and educating yourself into artists, why they've created those pieces. There's so much happening at the moment. I think this is an amazing outlet for everyone to talk. He's one of my favourite artists, period. And I think his artwork's beautiful and really represents, one, a lot of his cultural heritage, but also a lot of what we should understand and appreciate. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We massively appreciate it. How do you want to sign out?
I just want to disappear in a cloud of smoke.
Well, that's from us. And have a lovely rest of your day.
That was like Chuckle Brothers.
Yeah.